hi, this is Gary Lee with Black Belt TV's Martial Arts Exclusive. I'm just reading the new book published by Mr. Keith Yates called Young Samurai. Keith, thanks for being on the show.
Oh, glad to be here.
Well, listen, you got so much going on. First of all, Mr. Yates is a legitimate 10th degree black belt underneath the Allenstein dynasty. He's also an author, a writer. Mr. Yates, you pretty much done everything in Texas karate. What's going on right now in your career, and what's happening?
Well, in fact, I just did this children's book. As you may know, I teach at a couple of different YMCA's.
Yes.
Have hundreds of kids under me, and the martial arts have really changed since the days when you and I started.
Yes, sir.
We were probably some of the few kids in karate. Nowadays, you walk into a martial arts class, there are an awful lot of kids. And I think it's really popular for several reasons, for self-defense, but also parents want the discipline and the character-building aspects. This is one of the things we've tried to reflect in the book.
Well, absolutely. Children are definitely our natural resource, our best natural resource. But let me ask you another question, going back to the old karate days.
Right.
You started back in what year and what time?
1963, when I was 12 years old.
My viewers want to know, what was it like being in Texas in 1963?
Well, in 1963, as I said, there were very few children in the martial arts. I was working out with guys that were 10 years older than I was. I was probably seen as the pest, the little kid in class that they could kind of push around to try and push out the door. But for some reason, I stuck with it. Made a black belt, in fact, was Mr. Steen's youngest black belt at the time when I was a black belt at 17. But it was tough in those days. No pads, bare knuckle. The little kids had to adhere to the same rules as the adults.
Well, you've been around for a while. What is the basic change you've seen karate from the early years to what it is now?
Well, again, I think it's the emphasis on character building. We had that in the early days, but it was primarily a fighting sport back then. They were trying to establish the martial arts in the United States. So we had to establish the martial arts was tougher than boxing and street fighting. Nowadays, we can go back to the character building aspects and talk about some of the things that June Rhee and Grandmaster Pat Burleson emphasize these days as far as character and discipline.
You know what I really enjoy is reading your articles in the various magazines that you write, and the interpretation that you put into the martial arts. I really enjoy some of the articles you've written. What inspires you to write some of those articles?
Well, you know, the way I first got writing articles was Demetrius Avanis, the Golden Greek, was killed in a plane crash. And I went to his funeral, and I was at the funeral. Chuck Norris was there, a bunch of other people. And I said, boy, somebody ought to write something like this, about this for the magazine. So I wrote a little article, sent it into one of the magazines. And the guy said, hey, I like your writing. Would you like to write for us? And so I really attribute my martial arts writing career to Demetrius, because I wanted to honor him. Since then, I've written 11 books and probably 500 magazine articles.
You know, it took me 17 years to win the Greek Award, but I tell you what, it's one of those prestigious awards I enjoyed. Mr. Yates, I want to tell you something. Thanks for being on my show.
Oh, thank you very much.
God bless you.